Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, good morning. We had a false start there, but it's nice to see you.
Yeah, how are you?
We are back for Ask DataCore Live. This is Jessica and this is Angel, and happy Tuesday, everybody.
And I'm sorry we're late today, actually. It's a funny story. So we take security very seriously.
We do indeed.
And I had trouble getting into the laptop I use to record the live show. So too many passwords. We use two-factor authentication here. So we have like a little token that I got to put in and put the password in. I couldn't get the password. And then the other password didn't work and I had to reboot the computer. And actually the computer's encrypted, so I had to put the encryption key in. So anyway, not convenient, but secure.
We opened a ticket and our team at DataCore was on a problem like
I had to call one of my guys to come in and help me fix it.
And it was all set. Ready.
Yep. So, well, good morning. It's Tuesday. It's not Monday. We've changed the broadcast day just to fit our schedule a little bit better.
Yep.
Anyway, want to welcome you to our live broadcast today. And Jessica, what do we have to talk about today?
Well, does anybody do online banking? Yes, either personal or business. Or does anybody process credit cards for a client or for a customer? Yeah?
Yeah, we do.
So we are talking about how to keep those computers safest for when you do online banking, because it's not just about logging in and out of the, making sure you log out of the website and close the browser when you're done. There's a lot more to it than that. Right?
Absolutely. Sorry, I had to make sure. I think your microphone's on.
Okay, that's good.
All right, cool. So what we want to talk about a little bit today is, you've heard about running clean computers when you're doing banking.
Well, maybe they have.
Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. If you are in our email tech tips, you definitely know that you want to run clean computers whenever you're doing online banking.
So what does that mean? What is a clean computer?
That means it's a computer dedicated only to online banking, and it's free of any viruses, malware, or additional software. That's not really necessary. So hence the term clean.
Okay. So I got to be honest with you, not putting a pin in the business banking. In personal banking, most of us are probably just doing that on our phones.
Yeah, so personal banking always moves very differently than business banking. It's much simpler. So, when you're doing your personal banking, I would recommend doing it on your phone. Your phone is set up to be a more segmented environment, especially the iOS, iPhone, and iPads. Each app is compartmentalized, so the apps don't exchange data as readily and easily as Android apps do. So that would be my primary recommendation for personal, is to definitely do it on your mobile phone, because the chances of your mobile phone being compromised are so much lower. Not impossible, lower than your desktop computer. And I promise you, just about any personal computer out there, there's probably some kind of a virus on it already.
That is really interesting. So
it's also scary.
Well, no, I meant
this
that
is my scared face.
That you're recommending that we do it on our mobile phones. It's finally, this is a convenient security issue, because that's how most of us are already doing it.
Sure,
anyway, so
but do your banking at home. On your home Wi-Fi. Do your banking on your cellular connection. Don't do it at Starbucks.
Yeah. Okay.
So, unless you're on your own tethered device or on your own cellular connection. But don't do it on their free Wi-Fi. Don't do any secure transactions on free Wi-Fi. That's just my recommendation.
You don't want to shop on Amazon while you're sitting in Starbucks there?
No, just not a good idea.
See, that pretty much ruined my Wednesday morning plans.
Why? You have a phone.
That's true.
Come on.
I know.
You know how to do this.
All right, fine. Fine. All right, so business banking, you said that it runs completely differently. I'm sure most of us are just either, if we're a smaller operation, we're just doing our banking on our regular desktop, or if we're a little bit larger, we are just having our receptionist or administrative assistant doing it on her regular desktop. What's the best way to approach that?
Well, first off, let's talk about why it's different.
Okay.
With business banking, you've got an accounting package that you've got to reconcile. You're probably going to have some business application. You've got to flag that invoice is paid or flag that bill is paid. So there's going to be multiple applications involved. There's going to be multiple processes involved. There's probably going to be a check scanner involved. So that's why, personal banking moves way different than business banking. So when you've got those applications involved, you've got to create a healthy environment for those applications to run in, and you've got to create a secure environment, meaning let's not add any software or hardware to that computer that isn't necessary, like a webcam. Not really necessary for banking. So when I say run a clean system, I really truly mean run a separate system than your normal stuff. Now that's going to be an extreme, obviously. Adding another computer is going to add a cost. But again, it goes back to how much risk are you willing to accept. If you're willing to accept more risk, then running a separate system may not be for you. However, the big caveat is you need to check any compliance or regulatory bodies that your business is subject to, because some of them may have something specific to say about that. And in particular, I want to call attention to PCI compliance. PCI is payment card industry.
Okay.
So payment card industry, so your credit cards.
So is that any business that accepts credit cards as a form of payment?
Pretty much any business that accepts credit cards as a form of payment is going to fall under PCI compliance. There's many ways to get around some of the requirements. One of the best ways to get around the requirement is never touch a credit card number. So in our business here, we have clients enter in credit card numbers in a third-party portal that's managed by a third-party company, and we have them enter them there so that we don't have to handle those payments at all or those numbers. So that's how we divest ourselves of it. Now, we can still walk them through paying. So once they enter the credit card number in, then we have access to run that card, but we don't have access to the number at all. So that creates a wall of protection for us as a company, making our PCI requirements way different than a company that you would call up and you would read them your credit card number, they would enter it in, run it in their virtual terminal, and go on and so on and so forth. Okay.
So if you have a terminal where you do take somebody's credit card, either entering it manually or swiping it, if it goes into an app, like many of the ones that I'm familiar with, as soon as it goes into the app and you hit enter, that credit card number is, like you said, usable but not accessible. Like I don't know what that person's credit card number is.
Absolutely.
Where does the risk lie in that?
So very simple. The risk lies at the point where you enter the credit card number in and it gets into the application. And that point is between the keyboard and that application. And if we look back at some of the biggest credit card breaches, that's the point where the credit cards were actually breached. So, for example, Target. I was talking to you earlier about Target.
Okay.
Those credit card readers on point-of-sale machines and cash registers, they're essentially keyboards. Now, the newer ones are the exception because the newer ones are encrypted keyboards. So as soon as you swipe that card, that is encrypted and ties into the software in the back end. So that doesn't matter as much. I never want to talk in absolutes because in the security world, there are no absolutes other than you're probably going to get breached. But, some of the older ones are essentially just clear text keyboards. You swipe that card and it's actually going to enter that number in as if you were keying in the keystrokes. So in the Target breach, there was a virus that was actually listening for that pattern because credit card numbers follow a pattern. So they listened for that pattern, and anytime they saw that pattern, they would capture the number, the expiration date, and any other pertinent information they needed to take that credit card and ship it out. Okay. So when you're entering...
So that happens in that second between when you swipe and when it gets into their system.
And there's no difference between that and entering it in manually on the keyboard if you're using an unencrypted swiper. Okay. So when you're entering a credit card number in over the phone, the client calls in, you're entering it in. If you have a keystroke logger or keylogger on your computer or some other virus that is scraping numbers from memory.
So a keylogger, just to back up, is a piece of malware or a virus software that keeps track of every time you press a key on your keyboard.
Exactly. Keeps track of it, tells you when you pressed it, what it was, and then somebody can come back and just stitch it all together, again, looking for patterns.
Okay.
And you can get passwords, you can get, entire emails that you've typed, just anything you typed, it can be captured. So that's the type of thing that we're protecting and looking for, because you know what? A lot of the virtual terminals, they have become very good. And they're very encrypted and they're very secure. But we're always looking for that link, that little missing link or that little missing security point. And right now, that point is going to be that keyboard. So if an attacker has some malware on your system that can log those keystrokes, that's what we're protecting against. So how does that malware get on your system? Online, emails, all that other stuff. So how do you mitigate that? Well, no online, no emails, no all that other stuff. So we want to make sure if you want to run a clean computer, okay, mitigate what emails you're opening or just not run email on it at all.
Okay.
Mitigate what websites you're going to so we can actually set up a network. And in that network, the computers in that network can only go to your payment card company, virtual terminal, and maybe a business application or something. But we want to limit that. We run the firewall in what's called a whitelist mode, where only sites on that list can be visited. Everything else gets tossed out.
Okay.
So, and this is, by the way, on the extreme side. You know,
right.
if your application, if your situation dictates that extreme of a setup, we can set it up, and it's doable. But so an isolated environment where, you know, your computer and the computers, and by the way, if you look at PCI, that's called the Card Data Environment, CDE, and that's any systems that are involved in taking that credit card information.
So your swiper, your app that you put it into, your keyboard, your...
Absolutely. All that stuff gets put into a separate network where it only has access to what you absolutely need access to. And then we don't let other computers in that network so that other computers can't cross-contaminate. And the same thing goes with your online banking. You know, again, if you want to get really serious about you know, how you're banking and making sure that it's secure, these are the steps. I know they're not convenient, like the snafu I had with my computer trying to log in and all that stuff. It's not convenient. But neither is arming your car alarm. Neither is arming your home alarm. Neither is locking your door at home. None of that stuff is convenient.
Nobody who has ever buckled a crying baby into a car seat would argue that safety is convenient.
But why do we buckle that crying baby into the car seat?
Right, because and the chance that something goes wrong, that disaster is something that it's worth the cost of the inconvenience to avoid.
So that's what I'm trying to impart here. Now, I could sit here and talk to you for hours about all the different ways that we can set up a network or set up things to mitigate some of that risk. One of the other things that I've suggested to clients, run a separate wireless network and have it be secured, and then run a wireless terminal. The reason I say wireless is because that's actually a little bit more convenient than running a cable. But if you really want to get, you know, tight on that, you can run a cable, but have a separate network set up for a terminal and use a terminal to enter in those credit card numbers. And that terminal then, you know, if you lease it and you get the right kind of agreement with your credit card company, you can have them manage the security on that terminal and you don't have to worry about it.
And then it's somebody else's.
Right. All your job is to put it in a secure network. And that's super easy to do. You know, the technology that we have at just about every one of our clients' offices allows us to do that. So, you know, those are, I can't sit here without, you know, learning about your environment and give you specific advice for you, but they run the gamut on what you can do to secure that environment.
Well, let's just talk about sort of the least secure option where you're not really processing credit cards. You may take in an occasional check or two. But really you just want to do online banking for like deposits or checking your balance or maybe transferring from one account to another, and you can't dedicate an entire computer or an entire system to just that activity. What's the best way to go about keeping you safe in that?
Well, that's a great question, because there are other, we call them compensating controls that we can put in place. And some of these things are good to put in place even if you have a secure environment. So one of the best ways to protect your bank account is to set up alerts so that anytime money leaves the bank account, you get an email, you get to review them. Now, we bank with SunTrust, and SunTrust has a great fraud alert system that every time there's a transaction out past a certain amount, I get an email, I get to log into their page, and then I see all the transactions, and I can go down and check which ones are fraudulent, if any are fraudulent, and they will go and investigate right away. And they give me a buffer of time where if I get it within that buffer of time, that transaction is recoverable, it's reversible, you know, nothing happens. But if I go past that time, then it's on me. So again, one, you set up the alerts, and then two, take them seriously and review them timely.
Right. Okay. Awesome.
Cool. And if your bank doesn't do that, time for a new bank. But I mean that seriously. You know, we had a situation with a bank where, you know, I had somebody request a statement, and they just faxed it over without checking with me.
Howie.
So, I mean, and we were gone from that bank like with a quickness. So what I'm saying is, be alert. If your bank is not going to play and is not going to provide you the tools you need to protect the bank account, because again, they're not liable. I don't know if you know this, but the FDIC, we see that FDIC sticker everywhere.
Right.
That's not going to protect you. It's insurance, but it's not going to protect you against bank fraud. It actually protects you against bank insolvency. And when you're dealing with your debit card, which goes straight to your bank account, your checking account, or you're dealing with your actual checking account, so it's going to be that ACH number and that routing number and all that stuff, which is on every check, which is why I also warn people, be careful who you hand a check to.
Right.
So, it doesn't protect against that kind of fraud. Once that money's gone, it is gone, okay?
Yeah.
And in many cases, it's very difficult to get back. Banks make it very difficult to do that, which is why I tell people, hey, if you're a Dave Ramsey guy, that's cool, but get a credit card for the fraud protection and pay it off every month.
Yeah.
Credit cards aren't of the devil. They're tools that you've got to use properly. And one of the best ways to use a credit card, 2 great ways, is for the points or for the rewards and for that fraud protection.
Okay. Awesome.
So that was a mouthful.
That was a mouthful, but I like knowing, I think we've all learned something today.
Yeah, I learned a few things.
Okay, so maybe everybody but Angel learned something today. I'm not sure about that, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you have any questions or anything that you'd like for us to cover in the upcoming weeks, make sure that you let us know in the comments, and we will be happy to address it in a further episode.
Absolutely. And thank you for hanging in there through 2 weeks of Jessica being missing. I know it was thrilling and exciting.
No, thanks. I'll just accept the compliment and move along.
Absolutely.
I
We did miss you.
I appreciate
Although I do have to say I got the shows done in 6 minutes.
Well, when I'm not here asking questions to make you explain stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
But thank you. We're glad to have you back. And just remember, we're on Tuesdays at 11 a.m.
Yep.
So we'll see you next week. And we'll see you throughout the week. If I think of anything in between now and then, I'll come on and
I'm sure you will.
blabber about it.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Bye.